constructed. That must have taken a long time with some very, very gifted craftsmen working on that.
Absolutely, and what an honor it is to be setting hands on the same thing. You know, that some of probably the best carpenters and people were working on it in the 1900.
Let's talk now again, get back to the story about David M Parry. He came to Indianapolis back in around 1886. He was a buggy maker, right?
Yes. He came here in 1886 from Rushville, Indiana, and he started Parry Manufacturing Company, which they produced horse and carriage. And he started with 40 people on the payroll, and after a couple of years, he was up to 2,800 people employed. And they were producing, at their max, they were producing 1,000 buggies a day, and these buggies were shipping all over the country, and all over the world for that matter, and he got the name as being the world's largest buggy manufacturer.
Is this one of his cars, 1912?
Yeah.
The new Parry car.
The new Parry. He dabbled in the car business, and he had some successes and some failures, and he was actually successful for about 5 years, from 1912 to 1917, with the Parry Pathfinder is the name of his car.
And in the meantime, he had the house, the construction of the house began right around the turn of the century.
Yeah, around 1904 is what the records say. But
as you say, most of us have never heard his name before. I'm certainly, it's new to me. But back then, he was very well known, especially in political circles. They wanted him to run for office.
Right. Yeah, he was actually asked to be Roosevelt's running mate in 1904.
Teddy Roosevelt's running mate, really?
Yeah. In 1904, which he declined the honor.
There's Teddy there. And he declined that honor. Also, he was asked to, I guess, to run for the Senate or for Congress.
Yeah, he was asked to run for Senate. Let me just look at my notes here.
I know he's a man behind Benjamin Harrison, for one thing.
Yeah, he's fully responsible for the nomination of General Benjamin Harrison.
But as far as he was concerned, even though they wanted him to run for mayor, he stayed out of this. But I guess back then, his best, what's the best word to use here? I guess his best reputation at the time, or he was best known for his positions on unionized labor. He was very much against it, very much against it.
He opposed it.
In fact, yeah, his biggest opposition, the man he opposed, of course, was Samuel Gompers, the man who founded AFL, the American Federation of Labor.
Yeah.
There's Gompers there. What kind of a relationship did he have with him? Was it very antagonistic?
Well, they probably had a professional relationship. However, a lot of the union people did not like Parry. You know, they were so agitated with him that he feared for his life, you know, and he feared for his family's life. And he was rumored to never leave the house without a revolver in each jacket pocket.
Really? And
an armed bodyguard with him. And the New York Times actually wrote, and I want to read the quote, "Barring Parry's general office is a wrought iron fence, the entrance through which is a heavy gate which fastens with a spring lock. Back of the gate is a big burly bouncer. A flight of steps leads to Parry's office, and at the head of the steps sits a man with a Winchester rifle across his knees. One cannot interview Parry without first stating his business to 2 persons and being questioned, scanned, and quizzed. And when one is face to face with DM Parry, he is short and of slight build. His skin resembles parchment. His face is sphinx-like. He is always faultlessly dressed. He never utters an unnecessary word except when he launches forth in a tirade against labor unions."
Against labor unions. We'll pick up the story there of Mr. Parry and the incredible house at Golden Hill after this. With John Lethen, who is the president of Jericho Properties. They are restoring one of the city's best kept secrets, I guess you'd say, because people drive by that house in Golden Hills, and most people don't even know there's a home back, or did not know there was a home back there until you removed all the vegetation. So they're kind of surprised to see there was a house right on the canal there.
Right. Yeah, again, when I first went through the house, I took my architect, Dave Gibson, and I took my foreman, Abe Martinez, just so we could look over the project and get a scope of what was going on. And we definitely had something to work with. So.
We're talking about the man who owned the house. That was David Parry. He took a worldwide trip in 1914. At this time, he was very successful in the buggy and car business. And he was studying economic conditions, and he became ill overseas.
Yeah, from supposedly eating food in the Asiatic part of the world. And I guess he developed uremic poisoning. and he made it back to San Francisco, and then somehow he made it back across the country, but he was never quite the same, and he ended up dying in his home in 1915.
And his gravestone is, his grave marker there, you see it there, is at Crown Hill Cemetery, which is right around the corner from where he lived.
Right.
Right next to the Lily. Is that
Yes,
right? Yeah.
right adjacent to it.
Following this, then the family decided to subdivide the property?
Yeah, at that point, the family, I believe they were falling on hard economic times, you know, and they decided to subdivide the 100 acres that he had purchased into what is now the subdivision of Golden Hill.
Let's take a look at one of the homes that you see today at Golden Hill. This is one of the beautiful homes in that enclave just northwest side of Indianapolis. And all the homes along there architecturally are magnificent in one way or another.
Absolutely. It's a prestigious neighborhood, and it's quite an honor to be working in there.
Since we're looking at that house, let's go inside now the Parry home again and take a look at some of the interior work that faced you. What are we looking at here?
This is the ballroom. Actually, in the ballroom, there were 7 servants' rooms built inside the ballroom, so these ceilings were not visible until we took them out. And the ballroom has 12-foot tall ceilings, and the bedrooms that were inside were only 8-foot. But once we removed those bedrooms, we exposed the ballroom ceilings, which these murals were still up there.
Really?
Badly damaged from water, but they were still there.
Okay, when we come back, I want to take a picture or two of one of the, perhaps the most famous Hollywood actor at the time, who visited the home right after this. John Lethen, president of Jericho Properties, is our guest one-on-one this week, a man who's got his hands full these days, restoring a beautiful home at Golden Hills that a lot of people never knew existed until you cut away all of the vegetation around it. Right. This is a massive home, 21,000 square feet, and you're cutting the bedrooms down, you said, from 14 to 8?
To 8, okay.
Yeah. And bathrooms?
Well, there's 8 bedroom suites, so they all have their own bathroom, and then there's 2 half baths.
Okay. He had 9 children. One of them is Maxwell Parry.
Yes.
And Maxwell Parry is the playwright, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, he was pretty well known at the time himself. There's Maxwell Parry, and became quite well known as a playwright. In fact, he had many friends in the acting business, and led a group that became rather, well, actually is in effect right now.
Yeah, the Little Theater Society of Indianapolis, which is now called the Indianapolis Civic Theater.
Civic Theater, so he was behind that. Also, James Whitcomb Riley comes into the picture here as a visitor of the house, and there's a shot of Riley there. Tell us about that.
Well, Max's mother, she's the one that actually got James Whitcomb Riley to start speaking in public with his poems. But through the relationship with Max's mother, Max and James Whitcomb Riley became good friends. And there's one story that the Parry family tells quite frequently of the two of them got drunk together, and they were in downtown Indianapolis on their horse and buggy trying to find their way back to Riley's house. And apparently they were driving erratically, and a policeman pulled them over, realized it was James Whitcomb Riley, and helped them get back to their homes.
Oh, the house on Lockerbie.
Yeah, the house in Lockerbie.
Also, he was good friends with Maude Adams. That means probably nothing to anybody today, but back then she was, and there she is. She was the really a well-known actress.
Yes, she was the top-paid actress in her day. I mean, she was at her peak was making $1 million a year.
Wow.
Over $1 million a year.
And he became, because he was a playwright, he became friends with her, and she visited the home several times, is that right?
It's reported that that's the only female that Max ever courted, so I would call them boyfriend, girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah. He became a pilot then. We're talking about Maxwell Parry, the son of the man who built that home, in World War I. Mm-hmm. And a fellow aviator of his is right there. That's Eddie Rickenbacker.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Eddie Rickenbacker was in the squadron that flew with Max Parry's squadron, and they were fighting the Red Baron's Flying Circus over in France. Uh-huh. And let's see, Max Parry, he was credited for shooting down one of the Red Baron's Flying Circus, and then 6 days later he was shot down himself by Red Baron's Flying Circus.
That was in like 1918, something like that?
1918, yeah.
Okay. Of course, Rickenbacker, famed 500 driver and later owner of the Speedway. Mm-hmm. The family then, as I understand it, sold the home. Now it's outside the family, to a man named William Avery Atkins.
Yes.
Tell us about him.
Well, he didn't own, he was president of the family-owned business, E.C. Atkins.
There's Atkins there with his dogs, and this is the backyard of the home.
That's the backyard of the house,
Okay.
yeah. He was the president of E.C. Atkins Saw Company, and they were the world's largest manufacturer of saw blades, and most prominently the silver steel saw. And that was sold worldwide also.
He did quite well.
Yeah.
He owned properties in downtown. He had didn't he have the Severin Hotel?
The Severin and the, what was the other one?
There's the Severin there, but I know he had a couple that were right. In fact, all the architecture of these hotels was pretty much the same, as I recall.
The Spencer Hotel.
The Spencer Hotel.
Yeah, the Severin and the Spencer.
Okay. Now he himself, and really when you're talking about the home, we've been talking about the Parry home, but really it's more the Atkins home, the one that you're remodeling now, is that right?
That's what it resembles now, yeah. The exterior, a lot of it is still Parry, all the stonework, but when Atkins...
I'm sorry, but massive stones, aren't they? I mean, these are huge.
Oh, they're
gold.
massive, yeah. By today's equipment, they'd be hard to move.
Yeah.
So it's hard to imagine how they moved them back then with mules and pulleys and ropes or whatever. But yeah, most of the home today resembles Atkins. He remodeled the home extensively, removed fireplaces. He moved some fireplaces from one side of the house to the other side of the house, and covered up a lot of the Parry detail in the house.
I guess so that we would call it the Parry Atkins Jericho home.
Yes, when we're finished with it, we're going to call it a collage of Parry, Atkins, and Jericho, yes.
Okay. We'll be back in just a minute to continue our conversation about the Atkins home, I guess we call it now, in Golden Hills after this. And we're back now with John Lethen of Jericho Properties, talking about the Parry Atkins home in Golden Hills, which, how soon are you going to be finished with the renovation? Do you have any idea?
No, I have a goal set of December, but we'll see. It's just a goal at this point.
So after Atkins, did he then sell the house, or what happened? He had it for quite a while.
Well, he passed away, and then Mary Sales Atkins, his wife, she was under direction by him to donate it to IU when she passed away. So she passed away and donated to IU in 1965.
I see. Okay. And right during that period, well, actually before that period, there was quite a few notable people were guests of the home, including Clark Gable, who was here, I believe, to shoot. There was a picture of Clark Gable at the home. He was here to shoot the
To Please a Lady.
To Please a Lady.
Yes.
That was about 1950, is that right?
1950.
Okay. And To Please a Lady, it was about a race car driver, ostensibly more of a romance, I guess. How long was he in town?
He was in town for 3 weeks filming the movie, and this picture was taken the night before the 1950 Indy 500.
Okay, this is inside the home. There's another picture here of the poster, the advertising the movie To Please a Lady. You can barely see it, but it's that squared off postage stamp sized. Of course, it's much larger than that. Over the fireplace.
Yeah, and the fireplace is a Doge's Palace copy.
The Doge's Palace in Venice?
Yes.
Really? Has a copy of that?
It's all hand-carved wood, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Now, how do you renovate something like that? Where do you start?
You don't do a whole lot to that.
Right.
You pretty much just polish it up and call it good. I mean, it does have some stress cracks in it, and we just don't want to mess with it.
Yeah. Why was this home so interesting to you when you first saw it?
Well, I was told some stories at the first showing of the previous owners and how prominent they were, and that prompted my research on the home. And I remember going home that night and getting on the internet and researching Parry and Atkins and Golden Hill, because I didn't know a whole lot about Golden Hill yet. And Dave Gibson was doing the same thing, and we were texting each other back and forth until the wee hours of the morning of the amazing facts we were finding out, and what a diamond in the rough we had found.
So you saw the possibilities almost at once in this house.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you had already renovated other homes in town, and you were looking for a project, so
correct. This
was kind of fell into your lap. We're talking about the rain leaking into the house. I suppose that was the least of your problems, right?
Yeah. Well, that was the first major issue we had to address, and I hired a contractor, Star Masonry Restoration, and their first priority was to restore the 8,400 square feet of slate roof. It now has all new slate on it, new copper work, and flat roofs have new rubber roofs, and Star Masonry's done all that.
I'm going to get back and talk about more of that, also how people can get a hold of you and talk more about the ongoing conversation about the home. We'll be back with John right after this. back with John Lethen. A couple of quick anecdotes here about, one is about a totem pole that was discovered on the property.
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but I'll just give you the synopsis of it. But Dr. Richard Feldman, he lives in the neighborhood, and he's done a lot of extensive research on the Golden Hill totem pole and the original owner. And the totem pole was given to David Parry by some businessmen in 1904. It was on display at the 1904 World's Fair, and it fell down in a storm in 1939 and pretty much just sat there and rotted. But there's a replica of it at the Idle George Museum.
At the museum, that's
Yes.
great. Well, there's a short time left. Your goal then is to renovate the home and still respect the past of the home, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant by the collage of Parry Atkins and us. You know, we're trying to respect the past, keep what we can, and we're bringing back some of the Parry stuff that was covered up by Atkins, and what results will be a collage of all of our work.
And people can reach you how? Because I know you have an ongoing conversation with people about this home, and you have a Facebook page, right?
I do have a Facebook page, and you can follow the project. It's under Jericho Properties, Jerico, and I post pictures like every day, every other day, and post subjects about the history, and you can follow the project there.
Okay, very good. And you do intend to sell the property at one time, right?
Yes, I do. And we've had a few people that have been following the project from its inception, and you know, they're plenty capable of buying the house, and they're following it closely. And then we've had a few formal showings.
I'll let you get back to work. Put your carpenter clothes on.
Yeah.
John, good to see you. Thanks so much. John Lethen with Jericho Properties. We'll see you again next week. I'm Mike Ahern, one-on-one. Thank you.